In a world where voices grow louder, arguments more heated, and egos fiercely defended, silence emerges as the most formidable weapon. Imagine standing before a raging fire. The flames grow taller and fiercer, fueled by the wind that feeds it. But if you do nothing, no fanning, no fuel, the fire gradually dies, flickering into nothingness. The human ego works the same way. It thrives on reactions, arguments, and attention. Yet, when you choose silence, refusing to add fuel, their ego falters, weakens, and eventually fades. Silence is not surrender, it's power. It declares, without a word, that you are in control of yourself, your emotions, and your peace. Often, silence hurts an ego more than the sharpest words ever could. Have you experienced the transformative power of silence in your own life? Share your story in the comments below. Whether silence has helped you find clarity, resolve a conflict, or let go of unnecessary burdens, your experience may inspire someone else on their journey. If this resonates with you, don't keep this revelation to yourself. Share this with someone who needs it, a friend, a loved one, or someone trapped in the chaos of ego-driven battles. This small act could be life-changing for them. Let's begin this journey together and discover the strength within silence. Remember, sometimes the loudest statement is the one you never speak. 1. Silence is the most powerful weapon. There was a time when I believed my words held infinite power. I thought that speaking more made me stronger, more connected, more in control. But then I learned a lesson the hard way. I had a heated argument with a colleague, one that spiraled out of control. I remember my voice filling the room, growing louder, while he remained quiet. His silence wasn't passive, it was purposeful. When I reflected later, guilt crept in. I had been so consumed by my need to defend my ego that I didn't notice the strength in his restraint. This experience changed my perspective entirely. I began to understand that silence, when wielded wisely, is not a weakness but an unparalleled form of power. In the teachings of Stoicism, silence is not just the absence of words but the presence of control. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." Silence embodies this idea. When you choose not to engage in petty arguments or impulsive reactions, you reclaim control over your emotions. You assert dominance over the chaos around you, not by battling it, but by refusing to fuel it. Think of silence as a shield. In moments of conflict, when words become swords meant to wound, your silence deflects the attack. It forces the aggressor to confront their own intentions. Without your reaction, their ego flails, unable to find footing. But silence does more than protect. It transforms. It creates space for reflection, both yours and theirs. In a world where everyone fights to be heard, your quiet presence commands attention. It demands respect. The absence of your words forces others to consider the weight of their own. Take, for instance, a fire. Feed it oxygen, and it roars. Deny it air, and it fades. The same principle applies to ego-driven conversations. When you respond to provocation with silence, you starve the fire of its fuel. Over time, it dies out, leaving behind clarity and peace. This is not to say silence is easy. For those of us accustomed to speaking our minds, the impulse to react can feel overwhelming. But here's the truth. Restraint is strength. The moments when silence feels hardest are the moments when it's most needed. The power of silence is not limited to arguments. It extends to everyday interactions. Imagine a leader who speaks sparingly, only when necessary. Their words carry weight, not because of their volume, but because of their rarity. This is the kind of strength silence cultivates. The strength to be heard without shouting, to lead without overpowering, and to resolve without conflict. To practice silence as a weapon of strength, begin small. The next time you feel the urge to react impulsively, pause. Take a breath. Ask yourself, will this serve my peace or theirs? If the answer is no, choose silence. Remember, every moment of restraint builds your inner fortress. Silence also teaches humility. It reminds us that not every battle needs to be fought, not every point needs to be proven. When you let go of the need to win an argument, you gain something far greater: peace. The next time you find yourself in conflict, remember this: your silence can be louder than your shouts. Your restraint can disarm their ego, and your refusal to engage can end battles before they begin. When I look back on my argument with that colleague, I see the strength in his silence. He didn't need to defend himself. because he knew the truth didn't require defense. His silence was a declaration of self-control, a lesson in humility, and a testament to the power of restraint. In silence, you find clarity. In silence, you find strength. And in silence, you hold the ultimate weapon, the power to rise above the noise. 2. Silence forces them to face themselves. Silence is not avoidance, it's an invitation to reflection. In the argument I shared earlier, my colleague's silence didn't reject the conflict, it reshaped it. His refusal to retaliate with words left a vacuum that compelled me to confront my behavior. I couldn't hide behind the chaos of the moment or drown out his perspective with my voice. Instead, I was left with nothing but my thoughts. That silence echoed louder than anything he could have said. This is the power of silence. It forces others to face themselves. When you withdraw from a heated exchange or refuse to engage in petty squabbles, you create a space that cannot be ignored. It's a mirror, holding up the truth of their actions and their ego, leaving them to grapple with it alone. The Stoics understood this deeply. Seneca wrote, "Every man prefers belief to the exercise of judgment." In the noise of conflict, belief thrives unchecked. Belief in their own righteousness, their own power. But silence interrupts this cycle. It halts their momentum and forces them to reflect. Without your reactions, their ego loses its footing. Imagine a still pond. When you throw a stone into it, ripples spread outward, disturbing the calm surface. But if no stone is thrown, the water remains clear, reflecting everything around it. Silence works the same way. By staying composed, you allow others to see the truth undistorted by conflict. In my argument with my colleague, his silence wasn't a weakness. It was a deliberate act of strength. While I raised my voice defending my point of view, he stood firm and quiet. That silence didn't absolve me of responsibility, it amplified it. Without his words to argue against, I was left with my own. It was humbling. For those who thrive on control and manipulation, silence is unsettling. They expect reactions, fuel for their ego's fire. When you deny them that, they're forced to turn inward. Their need for validation clashes with the emptiness left by your refusal to engage. But silence is not only a mirror for others, it's a tool for yourself. In choosing not to react, you gain the time and clarity to evaluate your own emotions and actions. It's a moment to ask, what am I truly feeling? What outcome do I seek? Instead of escalating the conflict, you take a step back and reclaim your power. This doesn't mean silence is always easy. For those who are naturally expressive, withholding words can feel uncomfortable, even unnatural. But true growth often begins with discomfort. Restraint requires strength, and silence is its ultimate test. To practice this, start small. The next time someone provokes you, resist the urge to react immediately. Let their words linger in the air without a response. Observe how they respond to your quietness. Notice the shift in power as the absence of your voice forces them to grapple with their own. Silence also teaches us to listen, not just to others, but to ourselves. In the pause, we find the wisdom to discern what truly matters. Often, the things that provoke us are fleeting and insignificant in the grand scheme of our lives. Silence allows us to filter out the noise and focus on what endures. Reflecting on my experience, I realized that my colleague's silence was a gift. It showed me that my words, unchecked, could cause harm. It pushed me to look inward, to question my actions, and to strive for better. In the end, silence is not an escape. It's an elevation. It lifts you above the fray and invites others to join you in reflection. It doesn't avoid conflict, it transforms it. So the next time you're drawn into an argument, remember this: your silence holds more power than your words ever could. Let it speak, let it teach, let it transform. 3. No one wins in an argument. Arguments can feel like battles, each side fighting to prove its point, to emerge victorious. But here's a hard truth: no one truly wins in an argument. Even when one side is declared right, the scars left behind, the hurt feelings, the strained relationships, make that victory hollow. I once found myself in such a battle. The tension had been simmering for weeks, and when the moment came, it exploded into a storm of accusations and defenses. I spoke with all the conviction I could muster, but as the words poured out, I realized I wasn't seeking resolution, I was seeking domination. When it was over, there was no satisfaction, only silence that felt colder than any words spoken. The Stoics understood this well. Epictetus reminds us, a man can't learn what he thinks he already knows. Arguments often blind us to growth and understanding, locking us in a cycle of defensiveness and pride. By contrast, silence breaks that cycle. When you choose not to argue, it's not an act of submission but of wisdom. Silence signals a need for calm, for a moment to breathe and reflect. It doesn't seek to escalate but to de-escalate. This restraint sends a powerful message. Resolution matters more than being right. Imagine two opposing forces, each pushing against the other with equal strength. Neither moves, both grow exhausted, and the conflict persists. But what happens when one side withdraws its force? The resistance disappears, the energy dissipates. That's the power of stepping back. It doesn't fuel the tension, it dissolves it. This approach is not about letting others win, it's about redefining what winning means. True victory isn't in proving your point, but in preserving your peace. Silence allows you to disengage from the noise and focus on what truly matters. In my own conflict, the turning point came not when I spoke louder, but when I stopped speaking altogether. I realized my words weren't building bridges, they were burning them. By choosing silence, I gave myself and the other person room to reflect. Over time, the tension softened, and what once felt insurmountable became manageable. Silence also demonstrates strength. In a heated argument, the expectation is that you'll retaliate, that you'll defend yourself. But when you refuse to engage, it unsettles the other person. It forces them to question their behavior and intentions. Without the back and forth of an argument to anchor their emotions, they're left to face themselves. The Stoics saw silence not as avoidance, but as mastery. Marcus Aurelius advised, "You always own the option of having no opinion." This doesn't mean you lack conviction, but that you choose when and how to express it. Silence, in this sense, is a strategy. It allows you to observe, to listen, and to respond with clarity and purpose. To practice this, start by recognizing the signs of an argument brewing. When emotions rise and the urge to defend yourself takes hold, pause. Ask yourself, what am I trying to achieve here? Will these words bring peace or prolong the conflict? If the answer is the latter, let silence guide you. This is not to say you should avoid difficult conversations altogether. Some conflicts require dialogue to reach a resolution. But even in those moments, silence can be your ally. It gives you time to think, to understand the other person's perspective, and to ensure your words are thoughtful rather than reactive. In choosing silence, you reclaim your power. You refuse to let anger dictate your actions or allow someone else's chaos to disturb your inner peace. As the Stoics teach, keep calm and carry on. And in that calm, you find clarity, strength, and the true meaning of victory. The next time you find yourself drawn into an argument, remember, no one truly wins. But by choosing silence, you can rise above the noise, preserving your dignity and your peace. That is a victory worth striving for. 4. Silence makes them lose power. Imagine a storm building on the horizon. Dark clouds rolling in, winds howling, and thunder rumbling in the distance. It seems unstoppable and destructive. But storms rely on one thing to unleash their fury: conditions that sustain them. Without these, even the most powerful storm dissipates. Anger, chaos, and manipulation are no different. They thrive on reactions, feeding on the energy you give them. And when you refuse to engage, when you remain silent, their power begins to crumble. I once witnessed a heated exchange where anger dominated the air. One individual raged, their voice rising with every word, fists clenched, face flushed, but the other stood still, calm, unyielding in silence. The more the first person yelled, the more powerless they seemed. Their anger lost its force because there was no reaction to amplify it. It was as if their energy hit an immovable object and fell flat. This is the quiet power of silence. It disarms. In refusing to respond, you strip anger and manipulation of their fuel. They falter, lose momentum, and eventually collapse under their weight. As Marcus Aurelius taught, the best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. Silence is not about winning or losing. It's about denying others the control they seek over your emotions. When faced with conflict, many believe that words are necessary to reclaim power. But silence is far more potent. By choosing not to react, you shift the dynamic. The person seeking to provoke you is left without leverage. They expected resistance, an escalation, a fight, but instead they are met with nothingness. That emptiness forces them to confront their behavior, often exposing the fragility of their position. Consider how silence affects manipulation. Manipulators rely on your responses to mold your emotions and actions. They push, prod, and provoke, waiting for you to give in. But when you respond with silence, their tactics fall flat. They're left grappling with their insecurities, unable to control the narrative without your participation. Even more profoundly, silence challenges their ego. The ego craves validation, whether through praise or conflict. When you deny it both, it begins to unravel. It's like taking oxygen away from a fire. It can rage for a moment, but it will inevitably burn out. This isn't just theoretical. Stoicism provides countless examples of this wisdom in action. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Your reaction, or lack thereof, determines whether someone's anger or manipulation can affect you. Silence is a choice that protects your peace and undermines their attempts to control. Practicing this requires strength and discipline. In moments of tension, the instinct to respond is powerful. But silence is not passivity. It's mastery. It's the ability to recognize that not every situation demands your voice. Instead, it invites you to rise above, to maintain your dignity and composure. Start small. The next time someone attempts to provoke you, pause. Breathe. Remind yourself that their power lies not in their words, but in your reaction. Choose silence. Let their anger or manipulation exhaust itself without your input. Watch as the power they thought they held over you dissipates. Silence also reflects a deeper truth, that true power comes from within. By refusing to engage, you demonstrate that your sense of self-worth is not tied to someone else's chaos. You send a message, not to them, but to yourself, that you are unshakable. The lesson is clear. When you choose silence, you don't lose, you rise. You reclaim your energy, your peace, and your power. And in that stillness, the storm around you fades. Let silence be your armor, your shield, and your strength. Let it remind you and them that their power was never theirs to wield. 5. Silence creates necessary distance. There was a time when I found myself entangled in a relationship that had become toxic. Conversations turned into conflicts, and every word felt like a spark to a dry field, igniting tension. Despite the chaos, I stayed, believing that any engagement, was necessary to resolve the issues. It wasn't until I chose silence, withdrawing from the constant exchanges, that I discovered something transformative: distance. That space, both emotional and physical, didn't just provide clarity, it gave me peace. Silence creates necessary distance. It separates you from the noise, the manipulation, and the emotional turbulence that cloud your judgment. When you step back, you begin to see the situation for what it truly is, rather than through the lens of immediate reactions. The Stoics understood the importance of this separation. Seneca taught, associate with people who are likely to improve you. Sometimes, the first step to improving yourself is stepping away from those who diminish your peace. Distance doesn't mean abandonment. It means prioritizing clarity over chaos. In my situation, silence gave me the room to evaluate my emotions and the dynamics of the relationship. It revealed patterns I hadn't noticed before, the subtle manipulations, the relentless need for control. By stepping back, I saw the broader picture. This is the gift of distance, perspective. Imagine a painting. Stand too close, and you see only the brushstrokes, chaotic and disconnected. Step back, and the image comes into focus. Silence allows you to take that step back to view the full canvas of your life and relationships. Distance also signals to others that their actions have consequences. When you withdraw, you're not punishing them but protecting yourself. This act of self-preservation sends a clear message. Your peace is non-negotiable. The distance forces them to confront their behavior, no longer obscured by your reactions. For some, silence and distance are unsettling. They expect you to stay, to engage, to provide the validation they crave. Your withdrawal disrupts this expectation, leaving them to sit with their discomfort. This isn't about revenge, it's about reclaiming your energy. This practice aligns perfectly with Stoic philosophy. Epictetus reminds us, keep company only with those who uplift you. When silence creates distance, it becomes a tool for discernment. You begin to recognize who deserves a place in your life and who doesn't. But creating distance isn't easy. It requires strength to step back when every instinct tells you to stay and fight. It demands courage to let go of the familiar, even when it's harmful. Silence helps you navigate this process by offering a moment of stillness amidst the storm. To begin, consider a situation where conflict or tension dominates. Instead of reacting, choose silence. Step back, not out of anger, but out of the need to protect your inner peace. Notice how the dynamic shifts when you're no longer an active participant in the chaos. Silence doesn't just create space for you, it creates space for growth. In that quiet distance, you find the strength to heal, to reflect, and to rebuild. It's in this space that you reconnect with your values and determine what truly matters. Looking back, I see that my silence wasn't an escape, but an act of self-respect. It allowed me to create boundaries where there were none, and to find peace where there had been only turmoil. In the end, silence is not about isolation, it's about recalibration. It aligns your life with the principles of balance, clarity, and peace. The distance it creates is not a wall, but a bridge to a better version of yourself. And in that space, you find not only who you are, but who you're meant to be. 6. Silence brings maturity. True maturity is not measured by age or experience, but by the ability to control one's emotions and responses. Silence, when chosen with intention, is one of the clearest signs of emotional growth. It shows that you understand the value of restraint and that you have learned the art of holding back words that may harm or escalate unnecessary conflict. The Stoics revered silence as a tool for personal mastery. Epictetus once said, "If anyone tells you that a certain person speaks ill of you, do not make excuses about what is said of you, but answer, 'He was ignorant of my other faults, else he would not have mentioned these alone.'" This wisdom reminds us that reacting to every slight or insult is a mark of immaturity. Choosing silence, on the other hand, reflects strength, self-awareness, and the confidence to let go of trivial provocations. Maturity through silence begins with understanding its purpose. Silence is not avoidance. It is the deliberate choice to rise above emotional chaos. It creates a pause, a moment to reflect, to evaluate, and to decide whether a response is truly necessary. This pause is where wisdom resides. In moments of tension, silence allows you to shift from impulsive reactions to thoughtful responses. It is the space where anger dissipates, clarity emerges, and decisions are made not from a place of emotion, but from reason. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. Silence is the tool that helps us exercise that power. Choosing silence doesn't mean suppressing your feelings. It means mastering them. When anger rises, when frustration boils, maturity is found in the ability to step back and ask, "What does this moment require of me?" Often, the answer is restraint. It is in silence that you find the strength to respond, not react. Moreover, silence teaches humility. It reminds us that we do not always need to have the last word, to prove our point or to defend our pride. It shows that peace is more valuable than the fleeting satisfaction of being right. When you embrace this truth, you step into a maturity that is unshakable. Maturity through silence also extends to relationships. It demonstrates respect for yourself and for others. When you choose silence in the face of conflict, you signal that you value resolution over escalation. You create an environment where understanding can flourish and where communication becomes thoughtful rather than reactive. Silence is also a teacher. In the moments of quiet, you learn about yourself, your triggers, your fears, your strengths. It shows you the areas where growth is needed and the places where you have already evolved. This self-awareness is the foundation of maturity. Practicing silence as a mark of maturity requires discipline. Start by recognizing the moments when silence would serve you better than words. The next time you feel the urge to react, to defend, to criticize, to lash out, pause. Take a deep breath. Let the silence guide you to a higher perspective. In time, this practice becomes second nature. You begin to notice how silence not only calms your own emotions, but also influences those around you. It diffuses tension, fosters respect, and shifts the focus from conflict to resolution. The Stoics understood that maturity is not about conquering others, but mastering oneself. Silence is a powerful tool in this pursuit. It reminds us that our energy is precious, that not every battle is worth fighting, and that true strength lies in restraint. So, embrace silence not as weakness, but as wisdom. Let it be a reflection of your growth, a declaration of your maturity, and a path to inner peace. Through silence, you become the calm in the storm, the steady amidst the chaos, and the embodiment of true strength. 7. Silence is the first step to letting go. Letting go is one of life's most challenging lessons. It requires strength, self-awareness, and a profound sense of peace. At its core, letting go is not about surrendering, but about releasing the weight of what no longer serves you. Grudges, toxic relationships, unnecessary arguments, or even your ego. Silence is the first step on this journey. When you choose silence, you create a space for reflection. It allows you to separate from the emotions that cloud your judgment: anger, resentment, frustration. In that stillness, clarity emerges. You begin to see that holding on, whether to an argument or a harmful attachment, is like gripping a blade. It does more harm to you than to anyone else. The Stoics understood the importance of releasing what is beyond our control. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." Silence is that power. It is the act of stepping back, reevaluating, and choosing to release the burdens that weigh you down. Letting go does not mean forgetting or ignoring. It means accepting. Silence helps you accept that not every battle can be won, not every relationship can be saved, and not every situation needs your intervention. This acceptance is liberating. It frees you to focus on what truly matters and to invest your energy where it will bring growth and peace. When you practice silence, you break the cycle of endless reactions. Without your input, the noise fades. The conflict loses its fuel. The energy you once spent on trying to control or change what is outside of your power can now be redirected inward towards self-growth and healing. Silence also fosters forgiveness, not necessarily for others, but for yourself. It allows you to forgive your past mistakes, to let go of guilt or regret, and to understand that imperfection is part of the human experience. In silence, you find the strength to move forward, unburdened by the chains of the past. This process requires patience. Letting go is not a single act, but a series of choices. Each time you choose silence over conflict, acceptance over resistance, you take a step closer to freedom. You become less tethered to the things that once controlled you and more grounded in your own strength. The first step to letting go is also the hardest, recognizing what you need to release. This is where silence becomes essential. In the quiet, you can confront the truth about what is holding you back. You can ask yourself, why am I holding on? What am I afraid of losing? What do I gain by letting go? The answers may not come immediately, but in the silence, they will eventually reveal themselves. Silence also communicates a powerful message to others. It shows that you are no longer willing to engage in the same cycles of negativity or conflict. It sets boundaries without needing words. It says, I value my peace more than this struggle. This is not avoidance, it is self-respect. The beauty of silence is that it transforms what feels like loss into gain. By letting go, you are not losing, but reclaiming. You reclaim your energy, your time, and your peace. You make room for growth, for new opportunities, for better relationships. As Epictetus advised, he is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has. Silence allows you to focus on what you have, on the strength and clarity within you, and to release the rest. In the end, letting go is not about giving up, it is about rising above. And it all begins with silence. Let it guide you, heal you, and lead you to the freedom you deserve. Silence is more than the absence of words. It's a statement of strength, a tool of transformation, and a path to inner peace. Throughout this journey, we've uncovered the profound wisdom behind using silence to disarm, reflect, and grow. It forces others to confront themselves, creates the distance necessary for clarity, and demonstrates a level of maturity that transcends conflict. Most importantly, silence is the first step toward letting go of what no longer serves you. In the teachings of Stoic philosophy, silence is not avoidance, it is mastery. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Each time you choose silence, you reclaim your power and remind yourself that your energy is precious. Let this be a reminder that not every battle needs your voice. Not every provocation deserves your reaction. Sometimes, the greatest statement you can make is to say nothing at all. Now I invite you to reflect on your own experiences. When has silence served you as a powerful tool in your life? How has it changed your perspective, protected your peace, or helped you let go? Share your stories in the comments below. Your journey may inspire someone else to embrace the wisdom of silence. Remember, silence is not weakness. It is wisdom in its purest form. Let it guide you, strengthen you, and help you create a life filled with clarity and calm.